fun, see what Girl Talks is all about.
Well, I'm not sure what happened there, but it went away and now it's back. So we are starting over. We'll see if this works for you or for us, rather. Hey, how is everybody doing? I hope everybody is having a great day. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Don't let anybody lie to you. It's Wednesday. It's not Tuesday. But anyway, hello. So for many of you on Rumble, you don't know me. I have a few videos I've uploaded now, and I have been doing YouTube for a long time. I used to own MAGA Network and MAGA One Radio, and then Twitter decided they were going to ban us, and it really destroyed everything. So I have been working on building up my studio and rebranding and rebuilding. So I'm back here and I'm now doing Girl Talks. It's spelled that way so you can say we're going to talks about it, okay? I'm not from there. I did live in New Jersey for a while when I was in the Army. I was stationed at Fort Dix there. So anyway, I am just want to clarify a few things here. So I had a debate with somebody just the other day, and they were talking about the media and how the media presents and misrepresents and stuff like that. And they were talking about how, because I put the stance out that was the reason why Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and a lot of other people have gone to independent. And his response back was independent does not mean truthful and honest. What that comes with is doing research, and I can actually pull it up and read what he said because I found it rather insightful, especially because that was my reason for my declaration that sorry, I apologize. I am looking this up really quick. But let's see. Here we go. So I had said, let's see, he responded to me, but I don't see where my comment is, but I'm just gonna. So what the post was initially was a post that said, in dramatic twist, Elon Musk is left visibly devastated after a staggering $29 billion vanishes in a single day. His raw emotion response caught on camera has sparked widespread discussion about the vitality of high stakes. Sorry, let me move this where I can actually see it. Of high stakes investments. The piece delves into the facts behind the enormous loss and examines the potential ripple effect across his business empire, providing insights into the challenges he faces. Oh, dear Lord. Okay, so I said, first off, that's BS. This is AI created, and the amount wouldn't phase him like that. Remember his interview about advertising. He said they can go fuck themselves. You're a fake entity trying to spread fake information. That is something that really bothers me, and people will run with it. And Elon Musk has said this many times. He doesn't care about the advertisers. He doesn't care about loss of money. What he cares about is our country. Now, the destruction that they're doing, totally different story. He is bothered by that, as we all should be bothered by that, because that's domestic terrorism. And so anyway, my comment received a response from someone. And I think actually, I think a few people, but I'm only going to read this one because I thought it was pretty interesting. And I can't see with my glasses on, so I go to read this closely. This argument is based on a flawed assumption that journalists who leave mainstream media and go independent are inherently more truthful than those who remain at established outlets. The truth is, neither mainstream nor independent journalism is automatically better. What matters is the integrity of the reporting, the use of credible sources, and adherence to journalistic standards. I'm going to stop there for 1 second. And I'm going to say, though, if you have watched any of the ones I reference, like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, they do their research. They do a very diligent job of researching, and they do say both sides. Megyn Kelly has been known quite a few times for calling out Donald Trump when she doesn't like something he says or something he did. And she just recently did that. And she did that based on his decision to make the determination of who gets to be in pool for the journalist. And I side with Megyn Kelly. So, a little background about me, besides the fact that, yes, I was in the Army, I was in the military. Also worked in law enforcement, and I have a degree in journalism, and I was a award-winning journalist, and I left journalism in 2010 as an official journalist for a news outlet, and then I built my own network of MAGA One Radio and MAGA Network, and then now I am rebranding and rebuilding here. So I do know what it takes to do the research, get the information. And as I was researching this stuff for today's show on Mahmoud, or uh, uh, yeah, that's how you say it, Mahmoud Khalil's deportation. I found that a lot of the research I could even find was all biased. It was all left-sided. I had to go to Chat GPT to ask it to find me something that was not left-leaning. And it did. It gave me a little bit of information, but it was still, if you put the information in there, it doesn't matter where you go to get your research. It seems it's all very, very biased. It's very left-leaning. And I think that's very frustrating. So let me continue here with what this guy says. Many independent journalists do good work, but independence does not guarantee accuracy. That is true. That is true because there are left independent pundits or commentators or have their own YouTube channels or whatever, and they are spreading the same false information. And it is based a lot on where you get the information. Are you saying both sides of the story? Are you just telling one side of the story? So I am not sure. Hold on a second. I'm not sure why this is okay. That's why I needed to remove that. But so it does depend on which side of the story they're telling, and are they researching both sides of the story? And like I put in this broadcast here, forget your feelings. It's about facts and what's legal and what's not legal. It's not about how you feel about it. So again, I'm going to continue this. Without editorial oversight, fact-checking teams, or accountability mechanisms, independent journalists on YouTube and X are often free to push misleading narratives, cherry-pick data, or spread outright falsehoods without consequences. In contrast, mainstream outlets like CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News, but despite its own admitted bias, operate under the stricter editorial guidelines, legal scrutiny, and professional standards. When mistakes happen, they are required to issue corrections, something many independent outlets do not bother with. That is bullshit. That is bullshit. Because I have watched many. Megyn Kelly apologized for getting something wrong. Um, Officer Tatum has come back and said, I was wrong about this. I researched it a little bit more and I found this part of the information to be more factual. So that is bullshit. They do check themselves. And Megyn Kelly, you think Megyn Kelly doesn't have a team? She has a team. It's not just Megyn Kelly sitting in her back office room just putting shit together and saying, oh, this sounds really good. No, she has a team. Just like she did before. The difference is she is more accountable because it's her brand. It's her name. And if she F's it up to the point of spreading absolute false information, the one of the most important ones was she brought in a family. I don't remember the actual story, but she had brought in a family, and she fell hook, line, and sinker into their sob story. She shared it, she talked about it, she brought them on her channel, and it turned out they were grifters. It turned out they were doing something very nefarious, and she had to later come back and say, I cannot believe I bought what they said. And now it was based on their factual information that they were giving because it was their story. And she said, I can't believe I trusted them, and I brought them onto my channel. So because of that, you have to think about what they actually say. Um, so Squirrel says, why do mainstream outlets only show the clips of videos that they take out of context? I see the full clip much more often on the independent sites. Absolutely. And that's part of it, is you'll find the independent journalists will share the entirety of the video. Cop stories. Like, I have a cop story from when I was a police officer. And I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's kind of long. But anyway, long story short, I chased a guy over 6.5 miles on foot, got kicked in the face. We fought, we wrestled. He was injured at the end. I was injured at the end. I actually dislocated my hip doing that. And I dislocated his shoulders. But if somebody was there with a camera and caught just the very end of it, it would have looked like misuse of force, because after the amount of times that I had been chasing him and stuff happened, and some of the assault, it's partly why I'm broken now. But if somebody had only caught the tail end of that, I mean, I jammed my knee right into between his shoulder blades, and I wrenched both his arms back, and I put him in handcuffs because I had no choice but to fight, because he was fighting hard and I was fighting hard. So the point is that there is a lot of misconceptions based on, let's put this because this looks really bad, so we're only going to put that part of it, we're not going to put the rest of it. And so the same thing for political ones are the same way. They're only going to show that one clip of Donald Trump saying something. You know uh, there are good people on both sides. What's the whole story? The whole thing is, he said there are good people on both sides, notwithstanding the neo-Nazis and the racists and stuff like that. I condemn all of that, which he said, which they ran with. He said there's good people on both sides. For how long? Um, Claiming to be a journalist with a degree does not automatically make someone a credible source, except for the fact that we have education into how to do our job correctly. Now, I'm not saying that automatically. I agree with him on that. It doesn't automatically make you credible. Journalism is about methodical research, verification, and fair analysis, not simply personal judgment. That's what's happening on the left, though. It's personal judgment. It's feelings over facts, feelings over legal. And just because someone claims to disagree with Trump or the administration does not prove objectivity or legitimacy. Bias can exist in many forms. Yes, I am biased. I will admit that I'm biased, but I will call out when it's wrong, or when it's inaccurate, or when something didn't happen or did happen. So I think that makes a difference. Bias can exist in many forms, including in independent journalism that thrives on sensationalism for clicks and engagement. Ultimately, the idea that independent journalists on YouTube and X are giving more truth than mainstream media is subjective and lacks evidence. The real measure of good journalism is factual accuracy, sourced information, and accountability, something that applies to all media, whether mainstream or independent. So I agree with what he says there, but I want to be clear that on both sides, they need to do their research, and when they find out that they're wrong about something, then they need to come forward and say, I was wrong about this. I didn't have this information accurately." That would be very helpful to know about what is being said, what isn't being said, and whether something is honest and truthful and being shared to the public as fact when especially when they know that it's not fact, like the Russia collusion, the Biden laptop. I mean, there was a lot of things that they know to have been not factual that they continued to run with, that including um the fact that they were doing the um what was it? Um what was it? It was the uh I can't remember the cocaine in the White House. That would be something too. Uh, there's a lot of things that are not accurate. There's a lot of things. Oops, I don't.
I
Want,
can't
I don't
remember
want the sound. I don't
the
want
cocaine in
sound
the
on
White
there.
House. That would be something
I am
too.
playing this and don't want
So
sound. I want
there's
no
a lot of
sound.
things that are not
Sound
accurate. There's a lot
off.
of things.
Sound off. There we go. I think I got the sound off. Sorry about that. I don't mean to repeat that. I have to have this on in front of me so I can see if there is any comments. So, getting to the Mahmoud Khalil's deportation events at the Columbia University. There are legal implications. There are people that are fighting back against this, and this is not opinion based. Sorry. This is not opinion based, nor should it be opinion based. It should be factual based. It should be based on the facts and what he actually did or didn't do and what was done. So the background of Mahmoud, I have a difficult time saying his name. Sorry, Mahmoud Khalil's deportation, his role at Columbia University. He is a Palestinian activist and graduate student of Columbia University School of International and Public Affairs. He played a prominent role in organizing and leading Palestinian protests on campus. His arrest was on March 8th, 2025. Khalil was arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agents at his university residence. Initially detained in New Jersey, he was subsequently transferred to a facility in Louisiana. So, what do people think is legal and not legal when it comes to this type of thing? When you have somebody who is organizing and causing some issues in the school, but not actively at the events themselves. There was several incidences where they took over different parts of the college campus, but then there's people that say, well, he wasn't even there. He was an organizer of it. So back in the 80s, I think it was, let me look him up really quick while I say this, but back in the 80s, there was an activist that was, that was a neo-Nazi, and he was sent to prison eventually. He was a white supremacist, and he died in 2007, but he was a organizer, domestic terrorist, white separatist, neo-Nazi, and convicted felon. Guess what? When he was originally involved in all of that, he was not always at any of the incidences. It took a long time for them to get him, and I don't remember what he was actually convicted of. I think it was, I think they got him on a subsequent charge, but I don't think they actually got him for, for the actual, racism stuff that and the conviction. Okay, Lane was sentenced to consecutive sentencing totaling 190 years, including 20 years of racketeering, 20 years for conspiracy, both under the Racketeering Influenced and Corruption Organization RICO, and 150 years for violating the civil rights of Alan Berg, a Jewish radio talk show host who was murdered on June 18th, 1984. Berg was shot and killed in the driveway of his Denver home by 3 members of the order. Lane was arrested on the evening of March 30th, 1985 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So that tells you something. He wasn't even in Colorado. He wasn't even there. He wasn't even part of it, but he had organized it. He organized what was happening, and thus, because he was the organizer of it, he was arrested and he was charged with it. Um, uh, uh, yeah, what does he deem accurate sources? I'm assuming CNN. And then, yes, for inciting violence. That's the reason why they're talking about this Khalil the same. And I would love to see somebody discuss this on the level of what let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Blah, 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 blah. Let's see if I can find the current one. Okay, here we go. I'm not gonna play this right away. 1 second, make sure I pause it. So one of the issues that you have is just because an organizer organizes something, like a lot of these riots and a lot of these protests and a lot of these things have been organized by said sources like Soros and other ones, and because they were organized by something else, it does not mean that they should not be responsible for the issues that have happened. Um, Inciting violence, peaceful protest versus riot, as in destruction of property or violence. Exactly. You can't claim that you are peacefully doing anything and freedom of speech. And part of the issue that I have with this is he's a green card holder. He is not a citizen of the United States. He has not made it to full citizenship yet. And as Tom Homan said, if he had presented the fact that he wanted the destruction of the US and that he hated it, and all these other things that have come out, he would never have gotten a green card. He would have never gotten the ability to even come on a student visa to go to the university. So therefore, we have to base it on the facts. So I'm going to play this little clip for you real quick, and I'm going to pause it here and there and give my commentation on it as well.
Audience, I think, knows my
Make sure we can hear it.
stance on this because I did a weekend podcast. If not, the short stance is I believe the government has every right to deport him, notwithstanding the fact that he's a green card holder and married to an American, which is really kind of an irrelevance legally. But the green card is not an irrelevance. And
part of the reason I'm also playing this one is because this is two sides. These two do not agree on exactly what is happening. They have two different stances on it. So that is what I brought this one on for, is because I really wanted to show that there are two sides, even with somebody that generally is very agreeable with Megan.
And he's deportable under several different statutes. He's done a number of things that can get him deported. I think some of his speech is grounds enough, but he's actually behaved in a way that could get him deported. You can get deported for a lot of things, even when you're a green card holder. It's a privilege. It's not a right. And Trump had every right to say, you're out of here. And I know you disagree, and you think it's a First Amendment case, which I don't think. So explain why you think that.
Okay, the fact that you have to think about what is constitutionally correct and what is not constitutionally correct is it's based on as a green card holder, you don't have the same full rights as regular people do, as in citizens. We have the right to fully protest, and it's freedom of assembly, peaceful assembly. And you do have the right to burn the American flag. But we're going to take a different stance to that to somebody who is not a legal citizen and has a green card and is not actually a citizen of the United States. Different story in a different way is the way I see that.
And why you defend
first
him
of all,
in general.
Sure. I mean, first of all, I've been defending free speech as probably my most important value, not just as a journalist, but as a lawyer for 30 years. I remember being inspired by what the ACLU did in Skokie, Illinois, where they defended the right of American Nazi Party members to march through Skokie, which was a town of Holocaust survivors wearing Nazi uniforms, even though the lawyers who did that were Jewish lawyers and they had Jewish donors. It was a very overwhelmingly Jewish group, and they still defended the right of free speech of the people who are Nazis, who only 30 years before had tried to exterminate Jews from the earth, because I think the principle is so important. And I've seen many times people say they believe in the principle when it comes to their own allies, and then suddenly start finding ways to justify censorship by saying it's incitement or it's something else when it comes to the views they most disagree with. And I think that's what is important to recognize here is the Trump campaign, the Trump administration made very clear that they intend to go after and punish in a lot of ways people who are protesting the Israeli war in Gaza or Israel itself, because the Trump administration are strong supporters of Israel. So we have to recognize the people they're going after have views that the Trump administration vehemently disagrees with. In the case of Mahmoud Khalil specifically, I've heard a lot of accusations about him that he is a supporter of Hamas.
However, you do have to realize that at the same time, he is also a student, and he is here on a green card. He is not just a regular citizen of the United States. So he does have a different position, and he has a different sets of rights. He doesn't have the exact same rights as a actual citizen of the United States has. So let's continue.
That he engaged in intimidation of violence. There's no evidence of that. It is true that some of the protesters at Columbia engaged in bad acts, but you can't impute those to Mahmoud Khalil. And I don't know if you saw, there was
Again, I would cite the situation that happened many years ago in 1984 and 1985 with David Lane, who wasn't there, and he didn't participate in it either. But yet he went to prison for murder because he organized it. So we do have to think about the things when it's actually organized by someone.
There was Wall Street Journal reporting yesterday about who Khalil is. And a lot of the Jewish students at Columbia who are part of these encampments, part of these protests, and they did have a ton of American Jewish students as part of them, I've interviewed them, all stood up for Khalil and said, the reason he was the mediator between our group and the administration is because he's trusted by all sides. He has defended Jewish students before. If he hears an anti-Semitic claim, he'll denounce it. He's actually been at the Shabbat dinners that they were holding.
Yeah, there are opposite claims in New York Post. There's opposite claims by other students who have been interviewed who said that they felt completely unsafe at that school because of the organizing. And one of the things that has been said about it is also, you think about it from this perspective. I understand that he was the spokesperson to try to organize and fix things up, and that he was gentle, and he was thought-provoking, and he was so if somebody walks up to another person and says very quietly, maybe even rubbing their shoulder and saying, it would be a shame if you broke your arm. It would be a shame if something bad happened to you. And I wouldn't want that to happen. So what you're going to do is you're going to go, let's pretend this is a husband and wife in a domestic violence situation. So what you're going to do is you're going to go make me dinner, and you're going to clean the kitchen and then you're going to do XYZ. Or I would hate to see something bad happen to you. But just because they say it in a nice, calm, gentle voice, that passive voice, does not mean they're not being controlling. And it doesn't mean that they're not organizing something. And it doesn't mean that they're not involved in something. So we need to be clear, just because he's does it in a calm demeanor does not mean that he is innocent of actions and actionable and legal. So we have to keep that all into account.
I'd like to know specifically on the record what he has done that makes this claim that he's a Hamas supporter or incited harassment and violence against Jewish students justifiable, because I've looked very carefully and I don't see anything. He went on CNN and said his
he worked for
vision of
UNRWA,
the world,
which is basically
Jewish...
a branch of Hamas. That's one thing.
Megan, the UNRWA was funded by the U.S. government for decades under both political parties. It's a part of the UN,
but
I don't.
More recently,
I don't
it's been
agree with
very
that.
aligned with Hamas. You can't deny that.
It was so aligned with Hamas that it was deemed that, and even Biden had to remove them getting funding from us because they were aligned with it.
I mean, if you're going to say that people who go work for the UN are now suspect of being terrorists or whatever, you know how many employees of the UN are, and of UNRWA.
Even Joe Biden cut ties with UNRWA because it was working with Hamas post 10/7. Even the Democrats did that. This is not a partisan position.
Well, Israel is not a partisan position. Joe Biden fed Israel the arms and the money that they used to wage the war in Gaza. Joe Biden has long been one of the most stalwart supporters of Israel in all of Washington. Netanyahu has often said that.
I agree with that. But we're getting sidetracked because even though the guy worked for UNRWA, which I do believe is working for Hamas, we can table that. We can put that to the side. I don't think there's any question this guy supports what Hamas did on 10/7. Any question whatsoever. He was also wearing a shirt. First of all, he worked for UNRWA. Second of all, he referred to it as armed resistance, what the Palestinians did. He said that. It's on tape. That we aired it on the show on Saturday. That's not arms resistance. That's terrorism, what happened on 10/7. But you don't need any of that. I'll give away all that, what I just said. Let's just look at what he did as the spokesperson for this group, Columbia University Apartheid. I can't remember the acronym, but it's, the group, CUAD, I think it was, divest. And he served their spokesperson. That was the group that took over Hamilton Hall and engaged in the encampments on Columbia University. Hamilton Hall alone had so many crimes, we could spend all day talking about the number of crimes.
Was Khalil there?
And not that we know of. We don't believe he was there, but he was the chief negotiator. No, it matters. When you're the spokesperson, that's literally written into the immigration and the terrorism statutes.
Again, I'm going to reiterate the fact that, you have to remember that when you actually have somebody who is the organizer of something, it still means that they are ultimately responsible for it. If that were the case, then when there's a car accident or something and a truck runs over a family and kills them, that the company would not be responsible for what that person did while working for them because they weren't there. They didn't drive the truck. They have no responsibility for it. That's not accurate. You are accountable to the actions that you take. So in the protests constituted support for Hamas, leading to the revocation of his green card and initiation of deportation proceedings. But Khalil and his legal team are claiming that this is an attack on his First Amendment rights. I think Megan will talk about that a little bit here in just a second.
If you are the spokesperson for a group that espouses or supports terror, you're out. That's all they have to prove. Spokesperson is enough. And he was a spokesperson by every account that you hear of his behavior. He was going in there daily to speak with Columbia University administrators saying, this is what we need. You need to divest entirely from Israel or you're going to get more Hamilton Halls. That's it. That's all we need to deport him.
Okay. let me just say, this is so important about what these protests were in general and what the one at Columbia was, because I've interviewed a lot of Columbia students who participated and even organized these protests. Once again, many of whom are Jewish, many of whom are American Jews. There's tons of American Jews who were vehemently opposed to the Israeli war in Gaza and who went out and protested against it.
But a lot of the ones who show up are like Jewish Voices for Peace, which is as Hamas supporting.
They count.
As Hamas is.
They count. They still count.
Yeah, they count in the aspect of getting an interview with somebody, but you have to also think about the fact that what is designation, what's the distinction between protesting and rioting? And when they were, some of the stuff that they were doing kind of accounts to whether or not it was protesting versus rioting. And protesting that's only covered by the First Amendment of the right to peacefully assemble is peacefully. When you take over a part of a university or wherever you are, if you take over something and you're not allowing people to move from one place to the other, that includes if you protest on a freeway, an interstate, a roadway. If you impede somebody's ability for movement, that is now considered a riot. It is now considered a not a peaceful protest. So you have to think about it from two different perspectives.
Count as being Jewish, and
let's not pretend
idea
that they represent the dominant Jewish voice on the issue of 10/7.
No, but they represent
Hamas.
a significant minority. They had Shabbat dinners inside the encampment at Columbia because of how many Jewish students were there. And Khalil would go. Here's what the Wall Street Journal said. Khalil is someone who would even step in front of an aggressor to protect Jewish students, and who was a believer in nonviolence. And here's what an American Jewish woman at Columbia said: "I can state with full confidence that Mahmoud has never expressed support for Hamas." And she said she's an American Jewish woman who believes in the importance of Israel as a Jewish homeland, and talked about how often he would attend the Shabbat dinner inside the encampment. I think, let me just use January 6th for a minute.
Glenn, you're talking like inside the encampment. So yes, he would go and participate in this probably Jewish Voices for Peace Shabbat dinner, which again, they're hard partisan Hamas supporters. While this group that he was affiliated with was stopping Jews from attending the buildings they wanted to attend, crossing campus when they wanted to cross campus, professors too. I'm super glad he had Shabbat dinner while he was stopping Jews from exercising their rights on the campus.
Yeah, as long as I'm having dinner with you in the place where I'm holding you and you can't go anywhere else, that makes me a nice person. That's that. I'm being very nice. Wouldn't it be nice if I just didn't hurt you or allow my people to hurt you? But we'll just have dinner, okay?
You have no proof that he was ever stopping Jews from. Okay.
Seated.
So that means what I've spent 2 or 3 years arguing with liberals by arguing that they had wildly overstated what January 6th was and had unjustly prosecuted the people who were there, especially the ones who never engaged in violence. And what they would tell me is, what do you mean? Here are the people who are beating police officers. This was not a nonviolent protest. And I would say, okay, well, punish the people who used violence against the police officers, but you can't impute that to the entire protest.
You can.
No, you're...
And I'm going to argue, she's probably going to say the same thing I am, but there is a difference. Those people that were there, they were American citizens. Americans have a different right to protesting. And what's the difference between citizens versus non-citizens? And what's the difference between peaceful protests? A peaceful protest is nonviolent assembly to express opinions or advocate for causes. A riot, a violent disturbance by a group, often resulting in property damage or personal injury. Rights of citizens. A U.S. citizen has the constitutional right to peacefully assemble and protest. Participation in riots can lead to criminal charges, but does not affect citizenship status. Right of non-citizens. Non-citizen, including green card holders, are also protected under the First Amendment to engage in peaceful protests. However, involvement in unlawful activities such as rioting or inciting violence can have severe immigration consequences, including detention and deportation. That is a fact, not a feeling.
You're taking
You
the
100%
worst
can when you're
acts.
talking about terror and immigration. No, you're in it. We're talking about apples and oranges. That's a very different thing. You can't charge somebody with crime by like thought or by affiliation unless it's an actual conspiracy. But we don't have to prove that he committed a crime. We don't have to prove that. Although I believe he probably did. If he's the spokesperson for this group, then you could allege extortion. You could allege conspiracy. Now, Alvin Bragg is unlikely to do that, but that doesn't mean crimes haven't been committed by this guy. We'll have to see where the evidence goes. They're looking into that right now, including the DOJ. But you don't have to prove a crime. It's enough that he did it. If he did these things, if he acted as a spokesperson for this group that did commit crimes on the campus of Columbia, he's out.
Yeah, non-citizens convicted of crimes involving moral turpitude, aggravated felonies, or activities deemed a threat to national security may face deportation and revocation of their legal status. Specific to incite riots, the fact that he incited it, and I see it as incitement by his allowing for his group that he organized and was a part of, and he helped them to organize something that incites this stuff. Just because he didn't physically participate in the actions itself, that is what many people do when it comes to violent acts. Al Capone was never found guilty of any of the murders and subsequent things that he did in racketeering and as a mafia boss. But he ended up going to prison for tax evasion. That's the only thing they could get him on. Why? Because he sent his goons out to do his dirty work. He didn't physically do his dirty work. And the dirty work he probably did do, they never found or they couldn't find proof of. So just because you didn't do something, but they knew he was involved, they knew he was part of it. So we have to think about those things when it comes to what somebody's responsibility is. But at the same time, he was an American citizen. Now, this Mahmoud is not an American citizen. He holds a green card, so he is not under the same laws and regulations that a citizen is. His are heightened. He has to be representing that he wants to be a citizen of this country and being a member of an organization that's causing harm to anyone, violent acts, or destruction of property. And they did bust down doors, windows, all sorts of stuff.
You can get him out under numerous provisions under immigration law for criminality, for supporting terror, for espousing terror, and then ultimately for the Marco Rubio Secretary of State thing that says if you're a threat to foreign policy, you're gone. You don't have to prove anything other than Marco Rubio reasonably believes that.
The Bill of Rights still restricts what Marco Rubio can do, even though he's the Secretary of State. The Bill of Rights applies to green card holders. The Supreme Court has said that for 120 years. And if Joe Biden had said, I'm deporting Jordan Peterson because he's expressing a lot of dissent to my views and participating in protest against our policy, and I deem him a threat to foreign policy, every conservative in the country would have said that is a threat to the Constitution to do. I think the important thing here is
has to be reasonable.
There's
nothing unreasonable about saying being the spokesperson for an on-campus terror group means you violated your terms of staying here and your green card is getting revoked.
I think you're wildly mischaracterizing the point of this protest. I remember, very well in 2002, people who were opposed to the U.S. invasion of Iraq were told, oh, they were Saddam Hussein supporters. And they would say, no, we're not Saddam Hussein supporters. We just don't think the U.S. should invade Iraq. Same thing now. If you don't support financing Ukraine, you're told, oh, you're a Putin supporter. And you say, no, I'm not a Putin supporter. I just don't want the U.S. involved in this war.
That's a straw man.
These protests were about because these protests were against
no one
the
who
Israeli
was out on the
war
streets.
in Gaza. They were not defending Hamas.
They were demanding that Colombia divest. They were demanding that Colombia.
Exactly, but that's not a
Hamas.
That doesn't mean that you. No, the anti-Israel protesters modeled themselves after the student movements in the 1980s that were against the apartheid regime. The main demand of which was, we demand that you divest from apartheid South Africa.
Okay.
That's what these students are demanding. That we demand. That is a peaceful protest, not a violent one.
The American students cannot be deported for having done that, but someone here on a green card can be. If they had, Trump is not running around trying to deport people who protested on behalf of the Palestinians in Dearborn, Michigan, without committing crimes. He is not doing that.
Not yet.
The reason this guy, and he's not going to, Glenn, let's be honest. The reason this guy got caught in the crosshairs is because they unleashed hell on that Columbia campus. They behaved criminally. His group, of which he was a spokesman, whom he was defending and making demands on behalf of in dealing with the university daily. That's why he's getting deported.
I don't want to interrupt her, but absolutely, there was damage and destruction, and you can't claim that didn't happen. It's disturbing, even though I agree with a lot of stuff he says sometimes. But it's disturbing when you want to say, but when? There's video evidence of them doing the things that they did. So we have to come to some kind of conclusion here. I like it when I see, and I don't want to interrupt when Megan is really putting a point across. But let's see if we can.
Not because he's pro-Palestinian.
I'm having trouble about this issue of, is criminality necessary? You keep accusing him of committing a crime. Megan, hundreds of Columbia students, hundreds, maybe thousands, were arrested throughout 2024 when the administration would call the NYPD on them. Khalil was never even arrested as part of those protests because he was never one of the aggressors. He was the mediator.
However, like I said, he's the mediator. Just because you say it nicely does not mean that you're not wanting destruction. And to be honest with you, his ties are a lot deeper as they've been doing more investigating. He definitely has more ties to it. Comment here is citizen versus non-citizen is a huge factor, and deemed a threat. That's all it takes. He's a threat. He is, you cannot bring somebody into your university, your campus, and your United States that is going to be perpetrating and trying to convince people to join an organization that is about destruction and violence against the U.S., and especially if they have major ties to Hamas. That's a big no-no, in my opinion.
Somebody that the administration trusted, that the protesters trusted, to try and bridge and de-escalate. That was his role. To try and depict him as a Hamas supporter, that is...
You said... Yeah, no, he does look like a Hamas supporter to me. Of that, I have very little doubt. But I
agree.
Don't have to prove that.
That's the thing. He looks like a Hamas supporter to you, but that doesn't make him one. A lot of people look like things that they're not.
I'm not talking about his appearance. I'm talking about the T-shirt, which has some guy with the head exploding, and his behavior at UNRWA, which is basically an arm of Hamas. Just ask Joe Biden. That's why we pulled our support. There is evidence that he's a Hamas supporter, but I don't need to prove that. So it's pointless to spend too much time here. We have deprived.
Okay, so we're gonna stop with that part now, and the whole point is we don't have to prove all of that. What we have to prove is that he is not somebody that we want to that we need to have in the U.S. That's the point blank. It is not somebody. Let me see. He is not somebody who we want to bring on board and keep as a citizen in a place where he is calling for this type of behavior. So here is just a little bit.
I mean,
I'm here.
Does that look like peaceful protesting to you?
I'm looking at
I mean, that does not look like it was peaceful to me. It looks pretty damaging. Now, there are other videos out there where they show them just absolutely, destroying the building, and I'm gonna turn the volume off on that one for a minute because we can't really hear anything except for them talking on the radios, but there is other video evidence of them when they were doing the protests. I didn't pull that up. I can go get it, but, um, I didn't wanna spend too long on this whole part of it. But we have to remember that engaging or inciting riots can be classified as a
Thanks for
deportable
watching.
offense for
Stay updated
non-citizen,
about
as
breaking
opposed
news
as a
and top
threat,
stories on the NBC
um,
News app
to
or follow us
public
on
safety
social
and
media.
order. Supporting documentation inciting incidents at Columbia University is there are reasons why they came in and did an arrest. They would not have come in and done an arrest if there was nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. It's all good. They wouldn't have done that if that was the case. Khalil's arrest followed his prominent role. That's an important part. Organizing protests at Columbia University, which the government alleges were linked to support for Hamas. That was according to the Guardian. Khalil's legal team argues that his detention is an attempt to suppress pro-Palestinian activism and violates his constitutional right. And if that is the case, it's because he has a green card. He is not a citizen. Citizens can actually protest this a lot more, but his involvement in organizing this is a big deal and a big part of we can't allow this to continue happening with non-citizens. American citizens do have the rights, but we still will arrest a citizen if they cause this kind of destruction and this kind of um, of destruction, violence, and you don't have to hurt someone for it to be considered violent. You also have to understand that. Um, the fact that there was protests that were so egregious when they were damaging property. They were locking people into a place where they couldn't go freely on the campus. They didn't feel safe moving from place to place. And I'm talking about the Jewish students. And finding the one or two, and this is where you talk about what we were talking about earlier, the mainstream outlets and who says this and who says that. You're gonna they purposely go and find the Jewish student who is for them. I mean, you can't say that everyone who's Jewish is not supporting or protesting. Chuck Schumer just was like on the side of Palestine. So, I mean, Trump said you're not a Jew anymore because you can't be. And I mean, I find it funny, but at the same time, like you have to look at that whole perspective. Like he's Jewish and he's standing up against this and arguing that he shouldn't be deported also. But it's because he has ulterior motives, in my opinion. But that's also part of it. um, that's another whole thing. But anyway, we have a little segment here. I gotta pull up a photo that will work for this for a few minutes. Let me see if I can find this picture. Give me 1 second while I find this picture. But the whole point of this in the first place is that we have to have order and we have to have organizations that stand for the rights of American citizens. And when you have someone like this who is organizing protests and organizing events that will harm other students, it's very important that we don't allow this to continue because what this does is it sets a precedence. And we've already set a precedence that you can have violent protests and nobody's going to jail. Nobody's getting in trouble. I mean, they talk about January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. I would have been on the side of them for more of their issues with January 6th for the violent offenders had there not been colluders that helped get them in there. But also, if it wasn't for that you had BLM riots and all sorts of riots. You had riots protesting Ben Shapiro, Milo Yiannopoulos talking at Berkeley. They broke down things. They half torched that school. They were locking police officers in with padlocks and chains into a police station in Seattle. And they destroyed property. They destroyed police cars. They pulled real havoc on a lot of places, but nothing was done to those people. And there's been very few arrests. There's been very few people that have been charged with anything, especially anything major. None of that has happened. So that makes a concern when you talk about what we should and should not do. Is we have to be fair, but we also have to be consistent. And I don't see the consistency here. Some Democratic commentators express concerns that Khalil's arrest represents a suppression of free speech and a targeting of political activism. They argue that peaceful protest is a protected right and that the government's actions may set a concerning precedence. No, there's already a precedence that if you are not a legal citizen, you cannot cause violence and you cannot commit crimes. That is a crime. When you organize said event and he's hiding in the I didn't do it, I wasn't there, they did it without me. Oh really? They just came up with this all on their own? I don't think so. Conservative pundits emphasize the importance of national security and the rule of law. They argue that non-citizens involved in activities perceived as supporting terrorism organizations and inciting violence should face legal consequences, including potential deportation. Now, we know that this is going to go to court, and they are actually going to fight this one in a court. And I'm pretty sure ICE will win this in court itself, because they are not going to be in agreement with the ability for people to do things that are harmful to other American citizens. That's not going to be a way that they are willing, and they're not going to allow that to happen. That's all I have to say. Is I can't see any way, shape, or form that they're going to be allowed to do that. Peaceful protests, yes. Violent protests, no. Okay, my show, my opinion. Yeah, I have the opinion that he should be absolutely deported. I think anyone. I personally thought that when they were having the protest down there on the 101, that they should just take the ICE bus down there and just load them all up. Come on, because they're all committing a crime. Anyone who is not legal is already committing a crime. So you just have everybody there that can just join on in and get on the bus. We'll take you. We'll take you where you'd like to go. How about that? I would like to see people deported on a higher level. I think that there should be more deportations, in my opinion. I think a lot more should happen that way. I think there should be a lot more of that because they should not be allowed to. They should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form, my opinion, to do that kind of response. You know, they should not be able to assemble in a way that is negative. They should not be able to I don't understand why it's telling me that. But anyway, I don't need my system sound, so whatever. I okay, I don't understand. Sorry, there's a note that just popped up on my screen, so I don't understand that. Same thing with the Seattle one. I mean, there should be people arrested for that, and citizens or non-citizens, they should all be dealing with that in 100%. Absolutely, absolutely. It's important. I think that we should have a lot more people that are facing charges and facing criminal charges, and those that have been in support of it and those that have organized it should be accountable for their actions. Hold on one second. I'm not sure what just happened. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. Okay, maybe that will come back in just a second. I tried. I tried to answer, and my big fat thumb hit the exit button instead. So, oops, that's not what I meant to do. So we'll see if that comes through again. The whole point of it is we have to absolutely deport non-citizens. Okay, here we go. Thank you for calling Woke 911. What is your emergency?
Yeah, just had a car accident. I need some help here. I need to get some police
Well,
and fire and all that out here.
before we can dispatch anybody, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns? Seriously? I need help.
Well, what are the pronouns of the people that need help? Sir, I need to know.
There's no pronouns. I just need help.
I need to know which type of person that I am sending out to help them. Are they African American? Are they white? Are they Hispanic?
Person that is breathing.
Okay.
Person that is breathing
Okay,
that
but
can help me.
but I
That's all
need to.
need.
Are they gay? Are they transgender?
I don't care. Just get
I need to know this, sir. You called Woke 911. So I cannot dispatch anyone until I know what their race, gender, and sexual proclivity is and what they identify as. I have to know that before I can send anybody.
You just need to get people out here now. I can't.
Well,
This is ridiculous. Just get people out here now.
oh,
Get help.
well, what kind of incident was it?
I had a car accident.
It's
Got
a
people that are hurt. We need help.
it's a car accident. So what was it their fault or was it your fault?
Right now, I don't care whose fault it was. The cops can figure that out later. I just need help out here now.
So you need
I need police, I need fire, I need all that stuff.
you need police to come there and arrest somebody? Were did they misgender? Did they misgender someone? Is that what caused the accident? Well, I have to know what their pronouns are so that I can dispatch the correct person. This is Woke 911, and I have to know if the person is African American, if they're gay or straight. I have to know these things before. Oh man. Another hang up call to Woke 911. Whatever will we do? I don't know. I can't even express how distasteful that was. Anyway, that's my little short skit on Woke 911. What happens when we change our perspective. And I brought that on because and I'm going to do it every now and then on my show, but you think about it from the perspective of that I think she was assistant chief or whatever in California that said, well, you want somebody to look like you when they show up for, no, I don't. I don't want a fat 50 some odd year out of shape person showing up to my house with an emergency. And the other part where she said, well, are you going to be able to lift my husband? Well, if he got himself in a bad position, he got himself in a bad position. I can't remember what she said. I'm not going to pull that one up right now. But I mean, like, you think about that from that perspective. Listen to that call. Nothing got accomplished and nothing was dispatched for that call. Now, I know it's not legit. It doesn't actually happen. Nobody actually does do that. But when you think about it from that perspective, is that not the most ridiculous thought that we would have somebody that thinks we as people are concerned with a emergency personnel, emergency services, EMS, showing up, whether it's fire, police, ambulance, medical. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you present. I don't care what your identity is. I care that you know how to hold a fire hose and put out a fire. I care that you have water. I care that you have medical knowledge. I care that you know what you're doing. I don't care what your pronouns are, and I don't want you to care what mine are. I want you to give me the medical attention I need or to solve the problem that I have. And we have to, I'm making a mockery of it, but the mockery is for a reason, because we have to think about these things when it comes to situations where people are saying this, that, and the other thing. And this is the most important topic right now. Everybody's talking about it. It's just insane to me. It's insane to me that somebody would even say that. Um, um, sorry, I'm answering somebody real quick. It's important to be realistic about the stuff that we're dealing with in this country. You know, Elon Musk just rescued some astronauts from space that have been stuck there. They were supposed to be there for 8 days and they were there for 9 months. And he offered to send someone earlier. And it has been confirmed by Elon that he did offer and it was rejected. And he knows it was rejected because of political reasons. I hope that those astronauts come out and speak directly on this. And then you have the violence that's happening at Tesla places. I mean, that alone should be absolutely is a major problem. That shouldn't be allowed. That shouldn't be happening. There are reasons why we have rules and laws, but if you don't go after anybody and if you don't prosecute anybody and if you never do anything to anyone, then what are they going to do? They're going to think that they are untouchable and that they don't have to ever have to be accountable. And if you continue with that behavior where they are not accountable, then you're going to have this to continue and continue and continue, and it's never going to stop. It's always going to be happening. And that is devastating to me, in my opinion. Is we should be concerned with what the people out there are thinking. We should be concerned with what is happening. And we should be concerned with what information is being put out there. We should be concerned with what's real and what's not. We should be concerned with what the left versus the right are saying. We really should be concerned with the facts. And the facts are that, certain individuals are not being charged with crimes. They're not being charged with offenses because of the fact that it is not working for the agenda. It's not working towards what they want said. I can't get this video. I'm trying to get this video to pop up, and I can't get it to pop up. So I'm going to have to just share screen on this one. But the fact of the matter is there is the opposite side who is giving a different story. And then you get the people listening that are saying, "Oh, well, this is not accurate. We shouldn't be doing this, or we shouldn't be doing that." And we're basing it on not getting factual information. We're basing it on theory. We're basing it on thought, and we're basing it on feelings. And it needs to not have anything to do with feelings. What does the law say? What does the law regulate? What does the law provide? And that is what we need to be looking at more so than how we feel about something. So let's listen to this one real quick.
Back to live now from Fox on this Wednesday. We now turn to a news alert. For the first time since he was arrested by ICE, pro-Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil has released a statement from where he's being held in Louisiana. The Columbia University grad student is accused of organizing campus protests, aligning with Hamas, and now he faces deportation. Fox 5 New York's Briella Tomasetti joining us live this morning in Morningside Heights. Briella, good morning to you. A lot of controversy surrounding this story.
Well, and I know there was somebody that made this statement about the fact that his wife is 8 months pregnant, and someone else, I think it was Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum, said on his show, well, did he not know that she was pregnant when he was doing this stuff? Like, if he was concerned about his unborn child, shouldn't he not participate in something that could possibly get him deported? I mean, that's something I would think about. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is a significant update, Gine, because it's the first time we're really hearing from Mahmoud Khalil. Again, in that statement, though, he called himself a political prisoner and said that his detention represents anti-Palestinian racism. He also believes the Trump administration is targeting him specifically to repress Palestinian voices, and this comes after the president himself vowed to crack down on anti-Semitism.
And he's not resisting.
Put your arms around. There's no use with this. Don't worry about it. You're gonna have to come with us. Don't worry. I'm coming with you. Don't worry. No, it's a good thing. One thing worked out.
Now I'm going to be the one that shows they didn't show the whole entire piece there. They only showed a certain part of it. So again, they didn't show the entire piece. Sorry about that. They didn't show the entire piece. Again, they always show just a little piece of it. I'm going to turn the volume off real quick and see what we see and if there's anything.
Yeah, so you're watching
accurate.
Cell phone footage of Khalil's interaction with immigration agents. It was released by his attorneys last week and recorded by his wife, who narrated the encounter as he was placed in handcuffs in the hallway of their university-owned apartment building. In a letter dictated from a Louisiana detention center, Khalil went into more detail about his arrest. Khalil alleges on March 8th, I was taken by DHS agents who refused to provide a warrant and accosted my wife and me as we returned from dinner. By now, the footage of that night date has been made public. Before I knew what was happening, agents handcuffed and forced me into an unmarked car. He goes on to say my arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza. Khalil, a pro-Palestinian activist with a green card who played a major role in last spring's Columbia protests, was initially taken to an immigration detention center in Elizabeth, New Jersey before being transported to another one in Louisiana. The government says he couldn't be detained locally due in part to a bedbug infestation. Khalil alleges there was no such discussion about that. In court papers filed over the weekend, lawyers for the Justice Department also blamed the move on overcrowded facilities. Now, they want legal issues to be addressed in either New Jersey or Louisiana, not in New York, but Khalil's lawyers object the case being transferred. A federal judge here in Manhattan has yet to rule on either request. His lawyers, of course, want him to come back to New York to be reunited with his family. That's the very latest, though, live here outside Columbia University. Gina, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Briella Tomasetti.
Now, I am interested in the fact that they did not show what his statement was. I would be interested to find out what his actual statement was, because what was his actual statement? I find it interesting that he was deported or is being deported and that he made a statement, but they didn't show his statement. Why did they not show what his statement was? I mean, did he say something that was not fitting? Did he say something is he becoming a martyr for this situation? I mean, I would be interested to hear what he actually had to say. Let's see if we can find. I don't see anything on this one. Yeah, they're just repeating the same stuff that we already have. I would like to hear what his actual statement was because I didn't see any. I so far have not seen anyone. Well, maybe I just have not found it. But what was his actual statement? And because there's a lot of these, but they're just posting the little pieces around it, but they're not actually posting what he had to say. I would like to know what the White House is saying about it. I am when you think about different things, like there was a deported professor. So think about this one. There was a deported professor that that left. Oh, and I don't know where that is there. That left the country to go to to a terrorist funeral, and she was detained at the airport upon her reentry. And I'm not sure what her name is, but let's see. Hold on. So this was I don't remember what her name is. Let me just move this one over there and we can watch this one real quick too and we'll discuss this real fast. And then we have we don't have much time left. Actually, I have a I'm not going to play the part here. I'm not going to play that part because we only have 2 minutes left or so. So I'm going to play this last thing here and we will do this.
Dear Margaret's here, let's dive right in. Bring your questions, let's begin. Life's a real maze. We'll help you with your coping. Dealing with life in this rat race. Honest thoughts, no sugarcoating.
Tell us your tales, your woes, your gripes. No fluff, no bows, just real life types. Sign it clever, let your pen take flight. We'll serve the truth, sharp and bright.
Send us a query, take a lead. No advice you'll want to reap. But in the end, let's admit we all really don't care, Margaret.
All right. So my dear Margaret today is nobody ever says where they're from. It'd be nice if they start adding where they're from. And remember, if you want to have a Dear Margaret, this is our take on a modern take on the Dear Abby, and we called it Margaret because of J.D. Vance. I don't really care, Margaret. I don't know why whatever was talking to me. But anyway, it was our take on that because of JD Vance saying, I don't really care, Margaret, because I don't really care, Margaret. Anyway, this one is Dear Margaret. Hold on. Okay. Dear Margaret, I have had a dog for many, many years, and it suddenly has become very aggressive. My family keeps telling me that I need to put it down or I need to give it away and I need to give it to someone else. It has nipped at a few people, but I do not want to give my dog up. I don't want to get rid of my dog. But do I have to move out? What do I do? Or am I stuck having to either have my dog euthanized or having to deal with my family not wanting us around? So my comment on that is, let's see. It's a very difficult one because I feel very much so that when you take on a pet, you take it on for life. I would suggest if it's started to get aggressive and it's never been aggressive before, that maybe you lock it up when people are around. You only keep it around you. Excuse me. You only keep it around you. And maybe go take it to the vet and have a vet check your dog out to find out if there is something possibly wrong with your dog, because he may have a medical condition as well. So, because pets can get aggressive, like if they're losing their eyesight, they can start getting aggressive because they can't see what's happening around. So you might want to take into account a few things and see if there's any kind of medical problem, any kind of medical condition, and get a kennel and put a kennel in your room if that's where you are, or if it's your house and people don't want to come over because of your dog. I personally have a dog that wants to fight one of our other dogs on site, so they are kept separate. One lives upstairs in my mom's little apartment, and because my mother-in-law suite, as they call them, is where my mom lives upstairs, and she has her own entrance, her own backyard, and her own doggy door for her dogs. And that dog is actually our son's dog. And when he went in the Marine Corps, he couldn't keep his dog. Of course, they don't let him take him to the barracks. So when he went in the Marine Corps, the dog came to us. Well, our dog was buddy with them. And then all of a sudden, he decided that he hated him. And it has been game on ever since. He sees them, he wants to kill on sight. So we keep them completely separated. And when people are here, our dog is very at you, at your face. He charges people. He barks really aggressively. He's kind of scary. So when people come over to our house, he goes in the kennel. He has been very trained for that because we say the word kennel, and it doesn't matter where he is on the property. He comes running in the house and runs in his kennel and sits down. So you might want to make precautions where he's only out when you're home, if that is what you need to do. But I would definitely go have him medically evaluated by a veterinarian. But anyway, that is it for our show. Thank you so much. I hope you had a great night, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be talking about woke culture and cancel culture. Is it time for it to end? Is it ending? And what has it done? I know there's been the phrase out there quite a few times saying, go woke, go broke. Is it a factor? Is it true? Does it really happen? And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So we will talk to you tomorrow. See you then. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook Live. And we are here Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you again for being here. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel, please. I need the followers. I'm on my way to 100 on YouTube. This sucks because rebuilding has been a lot of work. And I want to do it 100% organic, so it's going to take a little bit of extra time. I've got lots of people that I think out there would like to participate. This is just one person's perspective, but I try to piece all sorts of things together and use my knowledge of being a journalist and being in law enforcement and in the EMS field in everything that I do. Hence the reason I think it's important that we mock woke 911. Thank you and have a great night. And I forgot, if you have any questions for Dear Margaret, email them to dearmarg, M-A-R-G, at girltalks, GURLTAUX.com. Again, that's dearmarg at girltalks.com. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching Girl Talks live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night.